Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Zarina, your Upland neighbor, bringing the floor today, July 10th, in all Upland cities. And I've got some Upland Kingdoms tips for combat. Nothing big, but it's something more than you're getting probably elsewhere. So hit that like and subscribe, guys. Hit the like. All right, so first off, this is just my little visual that I made because I'm kind of like a visual person and I need to see things like in a graphic type of arrangement. So what I did was I went through Upland Kingdom's guide on combat, and I read about which ways were like the best placement for the particular militia on the field. And it'd say things like, oh, these people, like for example, skirmishers or spearmen do better behind skirmishers, and swordsmen do better behind spearmen. So things like that. So if you know that those guys do better behind them, then they should be behind them. And then the knights, the guys who are on the horses, the light cavalry, they do better at the flanks. So the flanks are like the sides. So it's kind of interesting because what it looks like, so here's the kind of arrangement. Peasants, if you have to use them, which a lot of you probably will have to use your peasants because you don't have a lot of militia just necessarily just yet. So you might have to throw out some peasants up front to take the heat. If so, they go up front just to kind of be like a meat shield. They're going to get crushed and killed, and then afterwards they're going to plow through your skirmishers. So basically, you do want to build up that front line defense. You definitely want to have your knights and your light cavalry at the flanks because they're like your stronger battlefield people, especially your knights. Your archers are going to get ran over, so they're better off in back and shooting those arrows from behind. Light archers are like weaker than your other archers, so they really should be at the far back. Alright, so this is just like, a little help. I haven't had an attack yet, so I'm not like an expert, but I did take a look, and if you go set up an attack, it basically gives you this grid where it tells you how many of, each type you have, and it gives you the grid so you can click on the squares, and then they basically place the little person. It highlights, I think, and turns green when you put it over there. But whatever the case may be, this is just a glimpse at it because we all have to practice and see how it goes. Obviously, it's fit for 100 troops, so that it can be no more than 100 versus 100. I still want that to be different because I feel like, if we all have the same troops at some point, it might get really weird and boring. I'm not sure how that will match up if everyone's doing the exact same troop arrangements next to each other sometimes. So we'll see how that actually pans out in actual combat. What I have seen is people are joining fights, and it says join attack, for subjugation or I think to get your to get out from underneath the subjugation. I forget the word they use in the game, but you pick which one you're doing. Are you trying to defend or are you trying to subjugate? So we'll see how this goes, but that's basically the battle grid. And I think there's one more thing I wanted to show you all, and this is just someone asked about knowing which foods go for what. And this is just a quick chart that I made to kind of just give you an idea. So if you look at miners and farmers, they don't cost anything. You don't have to worry about having any resources other than the peasants themselves on hand to train a farmer or a miner. When you get to cooks, they do require, the cooks actually, I think, out of all of the other food people, they require the most because they take beets, carrots, and potatoes. Is that right? I feel like it needs a hop, but maybe nope, I guess not. It's that brewer. The brewer needs a hop. The cook looks like a whole the cook seems to need a whole stew. So definitely for that one, you're gonna need a few different vegetables on hand to make your cooks. Brewers, you do need one hop, and then you need some wheat. A lot of people sometimes aren't growing wheat initially, and getting that for wheat, you might have to get it from the market if you want to get your brewer going. Getting over to your specialty workers like blacksmiths, hunters, and woodworkers, those guys don't need food, but they do have these specific little items that you need to make them. For example, a blacksmith needs iron ingot. The hunter, you're going to need a bow. The woodworker, you're going to need 2 logs. And sometimes we cut up all our logs into firewood or planks, and we're not thinking about that. So make sure you save some trees. Do not cut them up. Turn off your chopping blocks if you need to none. Turn off your plank or your sawmill if you're making too much wood and not keeping the logs. Alright, with the other part, the bottom row there are your militia, your fighting troops, and what they take to make them. And so that's when you get into things like you needing your bow, a chainmail, spear, halberd, plate armor, and swords. So your light cavalry and your, well, actually it's your knights. Your knight definitely needs plate armor and sword, and that means anything with plate armor, I believe, is going to have that specialty foods, which are up, specialty foods are going to be your ale, roast, and what else? Ale roast, pastries, and wine. So yeah. Alright, anyways, I did have one more food chart, but I don't have a picture of it, which will show you all the ingredients that go into those things. We'll do that a different day, like maybe tomorrow. But this is like just so have a glimpse of what you need to make these different troops. So if you really want to make some knights, definitely start making your your blacksmith pump out some plate armor and swords. Another thing, plate armor and swords are for the swordsmen themselves. The one that you're going to need a lot of, it looks like it's going to be that plate armor. 1, 2, 3 different troop types take that. Otherwise, most of them only take 2. So the plate armor and the sword are the ones you're going to need more than the others. Alright, that's for Upland Kingdoms. Let's talk about the Upland floor. Alright, here we are, July 10th. I actually been picking up more properties, and it's almost like it doesn't have to be at floor. It just has to be the right site and the right size and the right Upland Kingdoms land type that I'm looking for. So, these people at floor, they're making, like, sometimes I'll go look at floor first and see if I can find anything big enough and just the right type of land and buy it. And if not, then I move on up the chain. So you can just making a little bit more than floor just by picking this decent sized property out there and knowing, what people might be looking for, like those quarries and, lands big enough for farms. Definitely check out what kind of land your property is by looking it up in the search plots area in Upland Kingdoms. I did see something I wanted to mention, and I want to say, was it San Francisco? San Francisco is going down. It's actually coming up on the dollar side, but that seemed really low. Oh, it's Rutherford. Yeah, Rutherford's going down even further, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, it's gonna dip again. And Los Angeles also has a few properties for $3.15, and it's a good time to get them if you can. The person wasn't in jail, but they might be flying off the shelf at that price. They might be going back up a little bit into the further in the $3 range by the time I post this, but we'll see. I'm trying to get this out pretty fairly quickly. I had a lot to discuss about that Upland Kingdom stuff. Alright, everybody, if you haven't already, hit the like. If you watched this far, do me a solid. Alright, everybody, happy hunting. I'll see you in Upland.